Do you like the newest tech and gadgets and cars and are prepared to spend money on it? Go ahead, enjoy the experience in good health, but do it willingly, knowing you're paying for it. Ciao, I'm Mario, a Swiss car guy on YouTube, and today is basically the cost of ownership version of fantasy football. Or at least I think so, because I have never played fantasy football, as I have no interest in football or sports whatsoever. But I recently made a video about my friend Emmanuel's 2007 BMW 525D, and a lot of comments shuddered about how expensive it was to own. To which I agree, it was not a cheap car to own. But as usual in my cost of ownership videos, I get some comments that say it would have been cheaper to buy it new instead. No. At least if you want a comparable car. Sure, if you're comparing a 20-year-old Rolls-Royce and a new Corolla, the Corolla will be cheaper, but the used Corolla would be even more so. If we compare like for like, in a normal car market, a run-of-the-mill family car will not be cheaper to own than a similar used car, unless that used car is an absolute basket case. But this car isn't. And the reason for that is depreciation. Since I have the figures for Emmanuel's 2007 5 Series, I will compare them to the cost of ownership of an equivalent new BMW 5 Series over a period of 5 years. There currently isn't a 6-cylinder 525D in the model range, so I take the 520D as it is the same horsepower and roughly the same positioning as his car. Since I am in Switzerland, all the prices in this video are in Swiss francs. For your reference, 1 Swiss franc is currently about $1.04, about 86 British pence, and pretty exactly 1 euro. Yikes, I remember when 1 franc was 60 euro cents. I am an advocate of buying old and depreciated cars, so to avoid personal bias, I tried to create the best case scenario in favor of the new car for this comparison. This is why, to keep costs down, I chose a base model, with the only extra being metallic paint, the parking assist and a 5-year extended warranty. With the warranty, we can completely exclude the cost of repairs from this calculation. The parking assist comes as part of the essential package, which basically offers 5,000 franc discount if you buy it. And the metallic paint, I cannot believe this is still an extra in 2022. Also, the base model 520D comes with vinyl seats, BMW calls it Sensatec, and a surprising amount of standard kit, at least compared to the 15 years older model that I'm comparing it to. I guess this is because the current 5 Series is at the end of its model cycle, and is therefore offered with more kit to clear it out of the door. Anyway, the car has a base price of 68,400 francs. Paint, warranty and Park Pilot are 3,370 francs in extras. Then we have the essential package, which offers a 5,000 franc discount. Since this is a best case scenario, I'm trying to give the car the best start it could have by adding another discount of 10% on top of that. In Switzerland, you can usually get a fleet discount if your employer has an agreement with that car brand, and in my case it's between I think 8 or 9%. And also you could just haggle and negotiate price off, so an additional 10% discount. This brings us to a purchase price for the car of 60,093 francs. Looking up used cars that are 5 years old and have done about 40,000 kilometers, we can estimate that this car should be worth about 30,000 francs after 5 years of ownership. Given this is a base model and the cars on the market in that price range are much better equipped, I reckon the 30,000 francs are quite generous. And again, depict the best case scenario for the sake of giving the new car as much goodwill as possible. This means that the car will have 30,093 francs in depreciation over 5 years. So that alone is 74 cents per kilometer versus the old car that only depreciates 15 cents per kilometer. By the way, I am normalizing all these numbers to 5 years and 8,160 kilometers per year in order to match my friend Emmanuel's driving profile and ownership period. Per year, that is an average of 6,019 francs. And this is a linear average. I'm not going into actual digressive depreciation curves. For our consideration over a 5-year period, they do not matter. So far, the new car has quite a disadvantage. But now we get to the part where the new card starts to shine: repairs and maintenance. In Switzerland, new BMWs come with 10 years of free servicing. It even covers consumables like brakes and oil, and even wheel swaps for the first 3 years. I also spec'd this car with a 5-year extended warranty, so no warranty repairs here. Therefore, again, to give the new car the absolute best possible scenario, I input a 0 here. The car will not cost anything in maintenance and repairs. The old car, by comparison, will be quite a bit more expensive at 21,568 francs over 5 years, or 53 cents per kilometer. Taxes, insurance and fuel will be more or less the same. Since the cars are fairly similar and they represent the same segment in the market, and this would be matched by the same owner and the same driving style. So I'll take the running costs of 14,890 francs from the E61 and apply them to both cars. That's just under 3,000 francs per year and 36 cents per kilometer. And yes, you might argue that the newer car might use less fuel, but it is heavier and has to adhere to more stringent emission regulations, which has made newer diesels less fuel efficient than the one from 10 to 20 years ago. But we are basically trying to compare the same car in new and old, and therefore the running costs should be identical. This gives us a total cost of ownership of 44,983 francs for the new car versus 42,758 francs for the old one. A difference of just 445 francs per year. This just seems like quite a low saving for driving a 10-year-old car compared to a new one. And it is. But it's not the full story. My friend had bought a 1-year warranty when he got the car, and I have not reflected it into this calculation yet, as 10-year-old cars seldom have full warranties. If we include the 842 francs he spent on the warranty and deduct the 4,749 francs the warranty paid out in that year, the cost of maintenance and repairs on that car go from 21,568 francs to 17,925, which brings the total cost of ownership to 39,115 francs. So, the yearly saving compared to the hypothetical ideal new car is 1,174 francs per year. You might still say that it is not worth saving $1,000 a year to have to deal with the lower reliability of an older car. But my friend wanted a manual diesel, which BMW does not offer in Switzerland anymore. And remember, this was the very best case scenario for the new car? I was deliberately trying to give the new car the best case it could possibly encounter, and it still ends up being more expensive to own than the old car. If we looked at more realistic figures, the same base car with the same discounts, I reckon it should have its residual value at 25,000 francs rather than 30,000 francs. The used 520D selling at 30 grand are newer and have way more extras with MSRPs of over 90,000 francs. Yes, extras are not worth their price on the used car market, but a car with 30 grand in extras is more likely to sell for 3 to 5 grand more than a base model. That brings depreciation for the new car from 30,093 francs to 35,093 francs, 1,000 francs more per year. As I mentioned before, maintenance is only completely free for 3 years. After that you have to pay for consumables and tire swaps. So 4 tire swaps for the last 2 years and 12 liters of motor oil during the services will add another 1,000 francs to the bill. Running costs will stay the same, which brings us to a more realistic total cost of ownership of 50,983 francs or 10,197 francs per year. My friend's old car now saved him almost 12 grand over 5 years, or 2,374 francs per year. You might still say that a saving of 2,300 bucks a year is not enough to drive a jalopy for you, and that is fine. But if money isn't abundant, that's a yearly family holiday in savings right there, or a new 10-year-old BMW every 5 years. And let's be honest, this is not the truth either. Because when you go to a dealer to buy a new car, you never walk out with a base model. There is so much tech and customization options on these cars nowadays that tempt you to spend more money, what you most likely will do. With a used car, it is what it is. Take it or leave it. But a new car offers an overwhelming amount of possibilities. Therefore, I calculated another scenario where I did choose more options on the car. I did not go overboard and only choose extras that a sensible person would buy, like the basic leather seats, not the nicer Nappa leather ones, keyless, 18-inch wheels, basic driving aids, and the mid-level stereo, not the more expensive Harman Kardon one. This makes the car more attractive and livable day to day in my opinion. So, without going overboard, I managed to rack up 23,520 francs in options. We still have the essential package and the other discounts, which get us to a purchase price of 72,234 francs. I reckon that this car with these options will actually be worth 30,000 francs in 5 years, which means 42,234 francs in depreciation, or 8,447 francs per year. With everything else staying the same, this somewhat realistically spec'd car has a total cost of ownership of 58,128 francs, or 11,625 francs per year. The difference to the old car is now 3,802 francs per year, or almost 15 grand over 5 years. At this point, the savings are substantial at over 30%. And don't misunderstand me, I can totally see that to many people it is worth spending more money to drive a nice new car instead of an old beater. But if you want to save money while still driving a car of the same level, you're better off getting it used. Sure, a new Smart or a Prius would be cheaper, but it is not a car in the same class, and since it matters to the owner here, it is not a BMW. In my view, the old car has one further advantage. It is cheap to buy. Spending 10 grand on a car is something many people are able to do cash without any need for financing. But when it's 60 grand or more, only the select few can oblige. This means the new car will most likely come with some form of financing and interest payments. Sure, you can also finance the old car, but financing a 10,000 franc car is going to cost you less than one that costs 6 or 7 times as much. BMW currently offers 3.97% leasing with low offers at the 0.9%, but these offers do not include the 5 Series. So I will be calculating with a 3% effective yearly interest rate, as this is a rate you should be reasonably easy to obtain. So we get a cost of financing going from 6,400 francs over 5 years for our realistic base model to 7,700 francs for the decently spec'd car. Due to the mysterious ways in which car financing works, the car in our best case scenario with the higher residual value somehow costs more in interest payments than the more realistic scenario. If we finance the old car, that is going to cost 1,300 francs over 5 years. Although, if you need to finance a 12 grand car over 5 years, you should have a long and serious reflection on whether you really need a BMW that badly. Maybe something more economical like a Fiat Panda or an older Toyota might be better suited not to keep you forever broke. Taking the cost of financing also into account, our car that you would actually buy at the dealership ends up having a total cost of ownership of 65,825 francs over 5 years, or 13,165 francs per year. Even if you finance your old BMW, don't, you will still save 25 grand over the nicely spec'd car, or 17 grand over the realistic base model. If you take advantage of the fact that it's cheap and you don't finance your old banger, you will save about a grand more. And no, I'm not going into cost of opportunity and how much return you could get for your money if you invested it rather than spending it on a car. There are just too many ifs involved in that. If my friend bought Bitcoin 5 years ago instead of paying outright for the car, he would have been much better off. But then again, he might also have been struck by lightning twice. So this is it, my ballpark calculation of why buying a new car is almost never a financially better decision versus buying an old and depreciated car. If saving money is more important for you, then an older car might be the better way. Unless you get some crazy offer on a new car with incredibly high residual values. Because, as I said in the beginning of the video, in the end, what makes a new car ownership expensive is depreciation. The difference between the purchase price and the residual value. The closer those two figures are, the cheaper the car will be to own. But I could go on and on about this topic, and since this video is already long enough, I will just end it here. Write down in the comments what you think of my calculation, maybe make a suggestion for a future video, and of course leave a like if you like this video, subscribe to the channel for more, and follow me on Instagram at SwissCarGuyMario for mostly random pictures of cars I encounter in Zurich traffic. Thank you for watching and have a nice day!